Clearly, Putin continued his assault on Ukraine, including shelling a nuclear plant, proving he is so nuts he might do anything, like release the P tape. Okay, we know you have that shit. Release it. I don't really want to see Trump in that situation, but I kind of do. But no, more seriously, 1.5 million Ukrainians have now fled the country, and Ukrainian President Zelensky has survived 3 assassination attempts in the past 10 days. Take that, Castro. And he's calling on the U.S. to establish a no-fly zone over Ukraine, which no American lawmaker, except for Representative Adam Kinzinger, actually seems to want. Obviously, that would and could spark a global war. Zelensky's also called for an embargo on Russian oil, which I think we should all want. And the U.S. is now greenlighting the sale of fighter jets to Ukraine, but like vis-a-vis Poland. It's sort of a whole triangulation here. Back in Russia, Putin cracking down on free speech and has banned Facebook, Twitter, and has arrested 3,000 Russians for protesting what he still refuses to call a war. In fact, calling it a war can get you thrown in jail, as can mentioning that Putin's real height is 5'6". Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett attempted to speak with Putin, and now Erdogan is also trying to speak with Putin, which I think is super cute. It's like two alcoholics trying to stage an intervention for their third friend who like went a little too far, you know? And they're like, oh, girl.
Don't ruin it for us.
Yeah, exactly. You're making us look bad. Meanwhile, on the economic front, Visa and MasterCard have stopped operating in Russia, which is crazy. France did seize the yacht of a Russian oligarch who owns the oil company Rosneft. And I just love that headline. Like any like yacht seized is the best. Oil tycoon yacht seized is like that. My heart flutters in with joy. I just want more of that all the time. So sanctions on all billionaires. Is that where we can go next? And that is what has been going on to give you a sense of how fucking terrible it is right now. And not from a certain perspective, right? These are journalists who are on the ground. They were with Sky News, and they were reporting outside of Kiev, and they left for the day. They're just trying to get footage, and they weren't able to get beyond a few checkpoints. So they turn around at the end of the day, and they go back. Well, as they go back, they realize actually the front lines straight up changed on them. So like they weren't coming back to safe territory. Ooh, I think we might have. I think I deleted this. I think Paige, we deleted this. Sorry.
Just imagine it, guys.
Just imagine, bing, boom, 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 bing. It's uploading,
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom. Dee, 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 dee. Everything's
Perfect
great.
song.
It's a
But
great song for war.
while we wait for, you know what? I used to be a journalist, and there was a time when you could say in any situation, I'm a journalist, and people would say, oh, okay, it's okay. This person is excluded from whatever the fuck is happening right now. And it doesn't happen anymore. And I never really thought that it was a big privilege until you start seeing it being now you are specifically a target. And
Yeah.
that I think is something that when people try to attack information, which we all know that's been happening, it's like when everybody should say this is a big problem. And even if you don't read the paper, even if you don't go on New York Times or the Post or whatever, like people not spreading the correct information is what puts us all in dire straits.
Yeah. I mean, remember also, I'm just reminded of in LA during the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, the LA Times journalist being thrown to the ground as she's saying, I'm a journalist, and how many across the country were in the same situation. But anyway, while we wait for this to load, just sort of thoughts, like broad thoughts on what's been going on in the last week.
I mean, if I known World War III was gonna happen in my lifetime, I really would have learned how to pickle some shit. I would have had my bunker ready. I would have moved to like someplace where I could have a bunker. I moved from New York to Los Angeles, both coastal cities, both top on the list of places to fry up like some chicken. So I'm just gonna, I guess, smoke
Hey, you
weed
won't
and wait
feel
for
it.
I'll wait for the mushroom in the sky to take me to yonder. I don't
Oh
know.
my God. No, in fact, I was saying this that actually, like, depending on how old you are, like, Americans over the age of 45, essentially, or like older boomers are like, oh yeah, we could be nuked. This could happen. Whereas, like, that doesn't even enter into my consciousness until like late in, like 3 in the morning. I'm like, oh, dude, are we gonna get nuked? Could that ever happen? Putin's fucking crazy right now.
It's
No,
also
me.
like, I think people who were alive during 9/11, I think also have a little bit more of a sensitivity to that, but we've been numbed a bit by being, I think we're all millennials here. All of us have gone through just a lot of shit, and we're just tougher. I just think that it's not that we don't think it can happen. I just think there's sort of this, like I said, like, yeah, you won't feel it. Like, that's where I am. I'm just thinking, okay, if it happens, I'm out. Like, what am I supposed to do? There was an individualism in the 1950s in the Cold War, and that everyone thought they were such white America's, like, everyone's the most important person on the planet, and we all are going to spend our money on these bunkers and get on it because we're so important, when so many people in this country, whether they're descendants of war or former enslaved people, they're connected to like pain and suffering that I think makes them more, I don't know, just process it in a different way.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means for people under 45, because or maybe even younger, like maybe under 30, who didn't go through 9/11. I don't know. I don't think it's actually a bad thing. I think it just means that we're connected to reality in a way that, like, a lot of white America media has desensitized us from, like, what most people on this planet feel.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and it's a little bit of a critique of a lot of the anti-war movement, which is predominantly white, which is kind of like, all right, so you get involved in something when it's like this macro issue, but like what's happening to your next door neighbor or the unhoused people who live on your block, like you're not really involved in what's going on with them. And so, and that's an honest critique. That being said, I'm like, I do think that anti-war and peace work is important. And we all know you send poor people to go fight your fucking wars. So, and all the military shit comes back to then police the streets and black and brown people, of course. But let's just watch this. Here is Sky News team being fired upon by an elite Russian force that they thought was a Ukrainian checkpoint initially, but then they realized, oh my God, this is like their like Green Berets.
Death squads who are attacking civilians in their cars as they flee. They do exist, as we found out.
Oh, that's a tyre, isn't it?
Oh, that's a bullet.
That was a bullet.
Right?
No, it wasn't a bullet.
It wasn't. Something blew up under us.
Something went bang. Oh, there's a big hole.
Okay. Oh,
What?
okay.
Whoa! Whoa! What? Whoa! 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 Stop! Where everyone?
Somehow we have to get out of this, but the rounds keep coming. It's a professional ambush. The bullets just don't miss.
Whoa!
Where can we go? Shall I crawl? Can we crawl down the embankment?
Andre! Whoa! Whoa! No! Stop! Stop! Journalist! Where are you
I'm
going?
hit, but escape the car, and with producer Dominic van Heerden, we make our way down the embankment. We know any rescue will take hours. We're stuck, fighting outside. We've no idea what's going on.
We've got ourselves into a garage. Somehow we found our way in. There's 3 guys working here, and they've said we can stay, but there's a lot of firing going on outside. We don't know why. It appears to be a battle with mortars and shooting.
After a mammoth logistical effort, we were rescued by the local police. We were lucky. Thousands of Ukrainians are not.
All right. So there you have it. That was that Sky News team. They finally found this like hangar warehouse, and some guys who were working in it in this or garage let them shelter there until they were finally able to be evacuated. But it's heartbreaking and terrifying. And then that they're journalists with helmets and flak jackets, and then you have families trying to flee. A couple of attempted evacuations were stopped essentially because Russia did not agree to stop firing. So it's pretty fucking awful right now. And there's part of me, like, I'm glad we're seeing this because it just shows you sort of the lack of, just the indiscriminateness of this. This is not a military unit. They're firing on fucking cars, civilian cars, journalists. There is, I mean, like, yes, the United States has done similar war crimes, but it seems like it's par for the course when it comes to Russia, right? Like, that's their baseline.
I think we have to stop even saying. I keep losing my light. I'm so sorry. I think something's going on with my, like, it's clicking. I think we just have to stop even submitting to that narrative, right? Like, we have on our shows, we talk about that stuff all the time. We talk about US imperialism. It doesn't have to come up in this conversation right now. Russia murders their journalists. We are a lot of things in our country, but I remember having this debate on TYT when I was working there 5 years ago, when like the Russiagate conversation started popping up, and Cenk Uygur and myself were debating Michael Tracy and Jordan Sheridan. We said, ultimately, Russia, and they imprison and they murder their journalists. They do not abide as a world power. Let's keep this in mind, as a world power, not a random country, not that, every country, not by some country that we want to extract information. No, this is a world power not following the rules of war. And I'm sorry, they know it's not that they're taking on Ukraine because because of US imperialism. Yes, it is about US imperialism, but it's about committing an act of war that'll escalate into a world war. They have a much bigger goal. This is not over oil. It is over oil, but it's not specifically over oil, like one project. It's not over extracting resources or competing with China for some landmass to transport goods. This is about something much, much bigger. And that's why I think, like, it's
or smaller if we're talking about dick size.
Yes, exactly.
Because that's all this is. No, I think that's a really important point. I mean, and this is Russia that's in the Security Council, in the General Assembly. Like, and have they shown themselves worthy of that? I mean, it's a little bit, here's my thing with Russiagate, and I'm sorry, Chloe, step in wherever, but my thing with Russiagate was I was on neither the side of, oh, you guys are obsessed with Russia, or the side of Robert Mueller's gonna save us. Yes, the former FBI director is, I'm like, nah, neither of those are right. However, Russia totally should face consequences for the very real election meddling that they fucking did. So who's on that side? Who's going to actually step to them? Who's going to actually draw some lines? It didn't happen, so like, it's funny because as if I was going to put my faith in Mueller to, like, save us. No, we realize we're alone. We realize it's social movements and it's people and it's grassroots movements. And again, I wish we had more ties, and I hope we do develop some ties to Ukrainians on the ground and grassroots folks,
But I think the thing is, sorry. No, I think the reason why I was on neither side is because I just like spidey senses early on, everybody's compromised on both sides. Everybody's compromised. And so the reason why you're not going to have somebody be either for or against it or speak out from a political standpoint is because every time you go to Russia, it's kind of like, and I know people will get mad, it's kind of like if you go into like a Scientology building, if you take that test, they got shit on you for the rest of your life. It's like,
I've done that. Have you done that, Chloe?
But I did it as a journalist, so I knew what to say. I knew what to say, but most people don't.
Oh, shit.
So
Right.
like once you're compromised, you could see like once you, especially under Trump, once you saw people like blatantly lying and gaslighting us, it's like, oh, there's definitely a P tape. There's definitely some pictures like there's definitely pictures of you with young girl. Like everybody is connected because they have been like coerced or blackmailed. and paid off. And so I look at some of them, especially like, you know, Rubio. I'm like, I feel like he's afraid of for his life, because if he says anything, it's a wrap. And I think a lot of people are compromised in that way. And I don't feel sorry for them. But, you know, this is like the bad guy villain movie. Like, this is truly what Russia has been doing for the past 30 years. And
Right.
so now that they back themselves in a corner, you can see nations coming together being like, this is our chance to, you know, because you can't argue how fucked up this is. Now we can always stand up and be like, yes, we were on the right side of history because everybody banded together. But if this was Russia going into Syria or somewhere else, people would have been like, oh, they'll figure it out.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.